Alright, hello and welcome to another very exciting episode of the Android Development Video Tutorial Series. I'm your host, Matthias Reich, and today we'll have a look at buttons. Now I know at the end of the last episode, episode number 2, I said that we would have a closer look at activities, but since activities are a more advanced topic that involve a lot of concepts like user permissions, intents, etc., I decided to procrastinate that topic to a later episode. So today we'll start out relatively simple with a button. So what we want to do is we want to create a button and then actually listen to button clicks by implementing an on-click handler for that button. Alright, so let's get started. We'll start out new, so we'll choose File, New, Project, and of course we're creating an Android project. Click Next. And I'll name that project Button. And for the build target, I choose Android 1.5. The application name is also Button. Package name, com extensive arts dot button, and again, of course, that package name would be different for you, like com dot your domain dot button, for example. And I want to create an activity called, let's call it simple button, and that's alright, so I'll just click Finish and that'll create our project. Alright, so here we have it. Twirl that down, go to the source folder, double click, and here we have it. So it's nothing new, it's pretty much where we left off last time. But today I want to introduce some new aspects of Android programming. So last time I introduced that resource folder, and we saw that there are like strings and our layouts. And what I want to do today is I want to actually customize the layout and customize the strings. So the first thing I want to do is customize the default layout. So I'll double click main XML, and that'll take us to that graphical user interface or interface designer. And here we have our text, hello world, simple button. And what I want to do is I want to select that text and just delete it by right clicking and choose remove. And it asks me if I really want to remove, and I say yes. Alright, so we have a blank screen, and when we check the main XML file, you can actually see that it's not entirely blank, but that there's a linear layout. And a linear layout is just one of the possible layout concepts in Android. And in this case, we have a vertical linear layout, which means that the elements are stacked on top of each other. Or better, new elements are created underneath all existing elements in that layout. Alright, so what I want to do, I want to go back to the layout. And I want to create two more elements. They're called views. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create an edit text view by just simply dragging it to the screen. And underneath that edit text view, I want to create a button. So I'll choose a button and also drag it to the screen and let go, and there we have a button. So next thing, I want to customize those views a bit. So I like to switch to the main XML, and here you can see it automatically created those two elements here, and I want to arrange them a bit more efficiently. So I'll just do it like this. And then we have that. And the same with the button. Alright, now we can see them a little bit better. Alright, so what we have here is our views, and we can customize those views with certain properties. For example, the edit text view has a predefined text which is displayed in that view. It is edit text 01, which you can see here. And it also has an ID, and it has some layout properties which defines how the view is drawn on the screen. Now when you choose wrap content, then the view will be just big enough to cover the content of that view. In this case, the edit text. Now you can see that when you switch back to the layout, it's now that big. And when you actually edit that text by, adding some characters here, switch back, you can see it actually grew bigger, and eventually it wrapped. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to delete that text. We don't need that. In fact, we could remove the whole property. So, and then we want to give our edit text a nice little ID. So I would like to call it my text. Now you might wonder what those characters here up front mean. Well, the @ symbol is just a way to tell that the following text is in fact a resource ID, and the plus sign indicates that it is a new resource and should be added to the resource list. And we're having an ID, and the name of that ID is simply my text. Alright, then I'd like to change the layout property for the layout width. I'd like to change it to fill parent, and that way it will span across the entire screen, or the entire screen width, and I think that looks much nicer. Alright, now the same with our button, and for the text we'll do something different here. Now we could just write some text here. We could write, click me, and it would be perfectly fine and it would work. But there's a much better way to do that. So we simply use our resources again. We'll type @string/ and then button text. And what that means is that it will look for the button text in our resource list, and it's looking for a string, and the string has the ID or the name of button text. So obviously we need to create that string yet because it doesn't exist, but we'll do that later on. So for the ID, I'd like to change it to my button. And again, for the width property, I'd like to choose fill parent. Alright, now I'm going to save that, and now we're getting an error actually, which is perfectly normal because it says there is no resource matching the name button text. And so we have to create that resource now, and we create it in the strings XML. And I just switch that graphical user interface and go straight to the strings XML file. And here you can see the strings that were already predefined by the application when it was created. Now the first string here with the name of hello, we can delete that since it was used to output the text on our text view. That standard hello world, hello Android, in our case with hello world simple button. So we don't need that anymore. So we can delete that. And here's our app name, which is the name of our application that is displayed in the top bar on screen. And now we need to create another string for our button text. So I just create a new element, string, with the name of button text, and I don't know, I'll just call it click me. And then I'll save that. And as you can see here, now the error has disappeared. Alright, so now here we have our layout. You can see here's our edit text and here's our button. And what I want to do now is I want to give those elements a little bit of padding so that they aren't that close to the border. So in order to do that, you need to select your linear layout by clicking on the black background. You can tell if it's selected when there's a red border around. And then you want to go into this window here, properties, and look out for a property called padding. And then simply, add padding like, 4 pixels. And you can see the padding is automatically and instantly added to the view. Alright, so that's it for our layout. Just save it again, and now we can start coding. Alright, here we are in our main activity, and now that we defined those views, the button and the edit text view in our layout, we can now start to implement them in our source code. So in order to do that, we simply start by creating 2 global variables, one called button, and I'll name that my button, and the other one is an edit text, and I call it my text. Now you can see there's an error, and it says that it cannot resolve to a type. So in order to fix that, we need to import the button class from the Android widget package. So just click import button, and the same for edit text. Just import edit text, click that, and as you can see up here, it automatically imported the corresponding classes, button and edit text. Alright, next thing is you want to come down here after super on create. Now we have to link those variables to our layout elements, layout views that we created previously. So in order to do that, you type my button equals, and we'll cast that to a button, and then we'll call find view by ID, open parentheses, r, which is our resource file, dot ID dot, and here you can see the IDs we defined in our layout, and we want to choose my button. And alright, and the same for the edit text. Say my text equals, cast that to an edit text, find view by ID, r dot id dot my text. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to set a few properties for our edit text view. First, I want to set, I want to set it to be a single line, and it's done by calling this method set single line. And also, when that edit text view gets the focus, Android will automatically display an on-screen keyboard to help you type text into that edit text view, and for our purposes we don't want that, so I want to switch it off. And you do that by setting the input type, and you want to set it to type null, and that will keep the soft or on-screen keyboard from appearing. Alright, so before we implement the on-click event listener, we want to create another global variable called count, and we data type it to an integer, and that is equal to 0. And now we come down here and we'll actually add that on-click event listener by typing my button dot set on-click listener new on-click listener, and close it off. And now it gives us an error, and it's basically the same error we had when we added the button and the edit text. It simply needs to import a class, and you can simply just import that class, and then it says, well, now you have an on-click listener, you need to actually implement a method called onClick. And so we don't have to type that, we just simply let Eclipse do it and click on Add Unimplemented Method, and there you have it. So let's just delete that text here. And now we have to decide what we want to do when we click on that button. Now what I like to do is I want to output a text into the edit text view, and I also like to increment the count variable to indicate how many times the user clicked on the button. So to do that, we simply type my text dot set text, and then I want to type you've clicked plus, and now plus plus count, which means to increment the variable count by 1 before using it, plus times. So when the user clicks the button, there will be a text outputted into the text field which says, or into the edit view, which says you've clicked 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, and so on. So let's just save that, and then I'd say we just give it a try and run the application. Now, as you can see, there's actually an error when we try to start our application, and now we have to have a look at why there's an error. So let's go back to our Java file, and I think I'll see. Of course, you have to put that set content view method before you actually start to modify the buttons and the edit text. So let's save that and just run it again. Alright, and here you actually have it. That's our beautiful application. As you can see, we have here our edit text view. You can actually edit some text there. And here's our button. And when we click that button, you can see that it adds, you've clicked 1 times, 2 times, 3, 4, 5. Automatically increments that number and prints a string into that edit text view. Alright, I hope you found this tutorial useful and you learned something. In the next episode, we will have a look at radio buttons and checkboxes. So stay tuned and thanks for watching. I'm your host, Matthias Reich, and I'll see you next time.